Good evening, one and all. Welcome to this special Monster, the Ed Gein story spoiler discussion. I have a prepared little review thing that I was going to put somewhere else, but I will say it first. This way, for some reason, if I hear myself say something, I'll remember it more than if I read it. So I have a prepared little review thing that I'll read up front. But before we get to that, Gray, um, we've sat through something that I'm not really well in touch with the response of this latest season of Netflix's Monster, but I can't imagine the true crime community, the horror community, or I don't know, like a television series community, any of the three being at all pleased with this. You?
I mean, it's number one at Netflix, so there's got to be like some Netflix community that's really happy about it. But yeah, everything that I've seen is rather negative. A lot of people are not liking the tone that was kind of taken for this. What would you call it? Biopic series? No.
It's so something that I did notice was the fact that they did not have the words, "This is a true story. This is not based on a true story, not inspired by a true story." It is just fiction. And I at the very least, good job there. Oh, those of you at the Monster, I don't franchise at this point. I don't know. Eh, like, at the very least, just thinking about the true crime community, this is kind of a spit in the face because man, they take liberties.
Ton of them, and man, they throw some people under the bus that really didn't quite necessarily deserve it. So yeah, there's quite a few people that'll be offended by their portrayals or the liberties they took with the portrayals.
Right. And Louise, what's going on? Louise loves the hair. Um, while you're hitting the thumbs up, and thank you for doing that, let us know if you were able to hear Gray and everything was okay and not echoey. And if that's all right, I will present my little prepared statement up front. But yeah, Jaden says the Winnie the Pooh voice took me out of it. Uh, if
I would have
someone go on.
would have dug the "Oh Bother" voice. It was beyond that. I don't know, but yeah, that voice, man, that was a choice.
Yeah. Jaden says, I barely knew anything about Ed Gein, didn't know much about Ryan Murphy, and I thought the show was ridiculous. Came in blind as hell. Louise says, if someone isn't familiar with the case, would probably like it but for people who knew anything about the case, it was disappointing, and I've read a lot about Gein, and yes, I feel like I spat in my face. Yes, a small amount of you who are supporters of the channel recommended me a content creator who I don't know is quite well versed in Ed Gein, and it was interesting to see their response to this prior to things being released. I'm interested to know what her opinion is moving forward because she appeared to be someone who was a bit more the true story is the most important aspect. I don't know much about the true story, but even I know, I was like, that's not the way it happened.
Ryan Murphy had different opinions about the truth.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys don't mind, forgive me. I'm going to read something for everyone's sake. It'll be a bit more focused, and then we'll go through categories. They won't exactly be tied to the exact episodes, but for the sake of fluidity, after my prepared statement, we'll just go on a category type basis. Spoiler warning once again, but this is something I prepared for a short type review that I did not edit anything to. So this would have been a script for a pre-recorded video. So I just finished the latest season of Monster, the Ed Gein story, and honestly, I feel both the true crime fans and the film community are probably going to walk away feeling a bit underwhelmed. Now, to say the series takes liberties would be the most charitable way to put it. They didn't just stretch the truth, they pulled it like taffy just to make it last 8 episodes. Trim the excess, and you've got a story that could have comfortably fit inside a 2-hour movie. Maybe even less if they skipped the philosophical posturing. That said, I'll give it this. The series is ambitious. It swings for the fences. The problem is that it never seems to decide what kind of swing it's taking. Every time you think it's committing to a perspective, it stops short, as if the creators themselves weren't entirely sure what they were trying to say. It's all set up, no payoff. Like they're afraid of planting their flag anywhere. And here's where it gets ironically meta. The show seems to want to explore the very idea of how pop culture takes tiny fragments from real life horror and amplifies them into myth. How stories grow bigger than the truth they're based on. That's a fascinating premise. But if you're going to make that your thesis, you're going to have to go all in. Commit. The show flirts with a theory about post-World War II atrocities influencing art, which in turn may have influenced Gein's crimes, an endless echo chamber of horror reflecting horror. Except, it never fully connects the dots. It's like watching someone gesture toward a grand idea, then quietly shrug and walk away from it. And maybe that's the most revealing part. The series knows it wouldn't exist without the films that it already made Gein a legend: Psycho, Texas Chain Saw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs, so on and so forth. And it leans hard into that meta-awareness. Whole segments are dedicated to how Gein's story shaped cinema, which all stems from pulp comics like Bitch of Buchenwald. Remember that. But the irony is that the show ends up spending much more time dissecting the fiction he inspired than the reality that birthed it. In other words, the creators accidentally prove their own point, that Gein's actual story may no longer be as interesting as the monster he inspired. There are flashes of something more meaningful. The show almost digs into why Gein has continued to fascinate artists and audiences alike. It almost points the finger back at us, the consumers of true crime and horror, asking why we don't look away. But each time it gets close to saying something bold, it retreats into ambiguity, like it wants to criticize voyeurism without losing the voyeurs in the audience. There's also an attempt, a clumsy one, to comment on politics, war, and mental illness. You can sense the writers reaching for a metaphor, trying to suggest how dangerous ideas spread when they find the right receivers, sometimes quite literally. But again, it's all implication, no conviction. It lands in that frustrating takes liberties category. Not grounded enough to be truthful, not confident enough to be artful. One thing I will give the show credit for is its willingness to wade into uncomfortable territory about sexuality and deviance. It hints at the unsettling overlap between sexual fixation and violent obsession in certain criminal minds. Though, let's be honest, it handles that topic with the subtlety of a chainsaw. It's the kind of theme that it's the kind of theme that could have been psychologically fascinating if treated with care. But here, it's mostly just provocative without purpose. At the end of the day, Monster, the Ed Gein story, is ambitious, yes, but it's also messy, unfocused, and oddly hollow. It never seems to know whether it wants to be a true crime dissection, a meta-commentary on horror, or an artistic statement about humanity's obsession with darkness. Instead, it becomes a blend of all three, and none of them fully succeed. If you're deeply interested in the subject, maybe worth a watch. But for most viewers, this feels less like a revelation. But for most viewers, this feels less like a revelation, easy for you to say, and more like a reminder that sometimes the scariest part of a story is realizing that there's no real reason for it to be told again. It could have asked the most interesting question of all: why are we so invested in this story? But instead, it settles for putting the same old horrors back on stage and letting them sing and dance one last time. Thank you for your attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gray.
Those were some very eloquent words.
It's a shame
I don't know how I
chewed 'em up.
follow that up. Like you actually like took time and like wrote something out and eloquently thought it out. Uh,
To be fair, there's 2 of us
you
in
know
this
what I
house.
hate?
There's 2 of us in this house, and I will not give any writing credit to myself, but, you know.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Either way, you delegated. That's still a sign of leadership.
Poorly.
Um, uh, the one thing that I can say is like, okay, so I understand we do have a fascination with true crime, and we do have a fascination with this particular story. It did inspire a ton of in pop culture, in movies. There is a certain fascination there, but that's the thing. Like the actual story of it inspired that. But instead, in this story, instead of just telling that story that inspired it, now it's literally stealing from the things that were inspired from it in the weirdest, most over the top way. Like, I don't know, just giving him a chainsaw and having him run after a couple of people just
Ugh.
because, Toby Hooper made a really cool movie that borrows some elements of his life. Like every decision he ever made had to be 100% inspired by Gein now. He's going to get credit for that, but not just that. We're also going to give him credit for, solving some of the biggest crimes ever. And then on top of that, we're going to show him ascend. And while he's ascending to to music, you're gonna get the message that he really changed the world. Uh, yeah, I think Charles put it a lot more eloquently that they were grasping at a lot of these elements and they didn't pull any of them off. But man, it is the most clunky, weird ass way to put these together that I've ever seen. And I really like the monster Dahmer story. I think they got the tone right in that, but this, I don't know what tone they're going for. It seems like they're really trying to make Gein sympathetic, but at the same time, villainize a lot of the people around him. And just, man, it is a weird choice. I don't know why we didn't show more of the actual story and instead
Yeah.
did this weird fictionalization of it.
It feels like the creators of the show just dropped every menu on the table in front of us, and they just said, "Huh? Food?" And we're like, "Yeah, great. What are we eating, though?" And they're like, "Look at all these choices, though. It could be any of these things." And, like
It's such a crazy story to begin with. Like, you don't need to make these weird embellishments to it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like because, you know, things like, um, uh Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs, and Psycho each had like little different things about Ed Gein that they inspired
Mhm.
or took from. I think maybe the real story just isn't that entertaining. It isn't that strong. Where, yeah, the guy used like he made interesting furniture out of skin. Yeah, he had a very curious relationship with his mother, and yeah, had some interesting grave robbing techniques, and like to wear some interesting outfits. I think short of that, especially with the liberties they take, I think this series just essentially reassures me that this guy wasn't that interesting, like at all. If anything, taking one tiny element and wrapping a movie like Psycho around it, like, yeah, um, the small little through line, it's an interesting thing that you can build off of, but I don't know if the Ed Gein story is that interesting. It's like jokes that, when I say something like my girlfriend did this, and I'll give you a 5-minute story, and the only thing that's real is like the food that we ate, but the extravagant story feels like a bigger deal, and the only thing that's really honest is, the store that we were in, or the food that we ate, which I don't know, I feel like fiction is always going to be a bigger deal than real life because it needs to be entertaining, it needs to be contrived, and
I mean, there's little elements like that. Like, okay, so for instance, in real life, they don't find the actual like heart in a pot actually on the stove. It's right next to the stove. So there's a little bit of ambiguity. Why are you going to cook that? But in the show, they make it so like he's cooking. Like, okay, spice up the drama that way. That seems
yeah.
just fine. having him solve one of the biggest, serial killer mysteries at the time, and then also inspire in the weirdest way where they're now saying that, what is it? Mindhunter, which is one of the greatest shows on Netflix. I don't know why that one hasn't been, kinda renewed for more, but man, they're, like, literally ripping that off too and making it so that, he really did inspire them as well, and he gave them all the idea, all the insights behind it, as well as solving this major crime. Like, I don't know, man. It just gets so weird and so contrived at that point. Like, why was any of that tacked on? Why do we have, like, the super friends of serial killers thing? Like, it's just man, I thought I didn't like it, and then just that last episode, just wow.
Yeah. So Sean, thank you. 5.99 euro super chat. Gein never used a chainsaw in his crimes. True crime means true
Mhm.
crime. If we're going to explore this subject, do like the Zodiac, tell the true story. Right. That's where I don't know who would be pleased with this, because if they were going to take liberties and make this a completely fictional story, I don't know. It feels like they were trying to do like some sort of Bonnie and Clyde thing for a little bit. Like commit. Like that was my problem. Like, all right, you know what? If you want to do this fantastical, ridiculous thing, eh, like don't blur the line between actually happened and ridiculous fiction. Like if you want it to be this fantastical thing, then like lean into it. Not, you gotta put your foot down somewhere and figure out what this is. And I think the biggest glaring issue for me is the fact that there was no based on a true story, no inspired by a true story. They did not tell you that this shit really
Okay.
happened for legal reasons, I would assume. But
But, okay, so we talked about Baby Reindeer before, and that he doesn't even claim that, like, this is the exact true story of it. He's changing names, he's changing locations, he's changing the way that events happen so that
Mhm.
it's kinda more the feeling of it, and that dude catches hell for it, even a lawsuit, which I believe has
also
all been dismissed by this
also
time.
Netflix too, so maybe they're a little gun shy because this would probably
But
be worse.
but we're using real people's names, and oh my god, did they drag at least 2 people through the mud. Like, Adeline isn't culpable for a lot of this, didn't know about it, didn't suggest it, and then, I'm forgetting her name, but the lovely hardware store lady, like, she did not have a relationship with Ed. Essentially, he just went in there for antifreeze, so, I don't know, it's really interesting, the liberties that they chose, but,
Yeah,
this you're using the actual people's names, like, it is real people in their lives. I think this has more of a responsibility to be somewhat correct, like, why not just make I love Psycho. I love their take on their impression of what this would be. I absolutely love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and my god, Demi made something amazing with Silence of the Lambs. They are all so different, but man, those are fun takes on it, and no one's going after them because they fictionalized something. They're just taking something inspired by it. This
yeah,
seems so much less real to what happened than any of those movies to me, but
that's fair. So once again, a bit of a spoiler reminder. Um, we're going to go by reminder of the episode names, but it's a bit more for my focus. So we're not exactly going episode by episode, but merely subject matter in each episode. We'll start with the first one, which is the most heavy on the relationship with the mother. Which I guess if there was something that Psycho might have leaned most on, perhaps it's the relationship between Ed Gein and his mother. What is the title of episode 1, Gray?
it is called Mother, with an exclamation mark. Yeah, we see Ed's childhood under a domineering mother, Augusta. After she dies from a stroke, Ed becomes unmoored. So hell yeah. Starts hearing voices, and then, that fuels his descent into grave robbing.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the first shot of the show Ed peering through a door where young Adeline is getting changed?
It's one of them. And there could have been an amazing way to just kind of like subtly add that and kind of the whole Norman Bates connection.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I thought they were going at first, and then they just take all subtlety away. But I all of this seems to be fictional. There is no like reports of him having a lifelong like relationship with Adeline and going into her house and doing all this. But yeah,
It,
fiction.
if there's something that I would accuse this series of being, or this season, should I say, of committing to, it's the implications they're trying to make, or the declaration they're making about sexual proclivity, because we have Ed Gein peering at a young woman, and shortly thereafter he's cross dressing um, and masturbating at the same time, and his mother catches him doing that, which I don't know. To go back to the true crime crowd, was there any indication that he had those types of sexual proclivities? I mean, dressing one way is one thing, but um, the one connective tissue in all of this, right down to like real life people in prison, there's something, we'll circle back around to it, but it seems like what this series is, again, declaring the most of anything is, people who have a different sexual background than normal vanilla people, they seem to be doing crimes quite a bit, and I don't think I appreciate that. I don't think it's going to do anyone any favors, because if you like to dress in women's underwear, it doesn't mean you're going to like commit ridiculous crimes. But right off the bat, I don't think we heard him say anything before we saw him masturbating, which is wild.
Um, yeah, I do not know about the whole like the strangulation part of it.
Yeah.
The even more out there part.
Hmm.
I know that he did have a proclivity for cross dressing, but I don't know if
Which
he
is
ever got
fine.
caught
I
by his
mean,
mother.
yeah,
Um,
like who has that on record that he would strangle himself, dress that way, and like
and his mother caught him. Yeah, yeah, fair enough. But he definitely had inappropriate feelings towards his mother, and that's also backed up by the chat. Which, hell yeah, thanks for that.
Mhm.
Um, so like that part seems to be correct, and she seems to be super over domineering. And I know she had some purity hangups, but I don't know. That's the other part. It's like who knows what's actually said at any point, that
Right.
isn't documented by history. So like what were these conversations like? Was she actually as abrasive? I don't know. But
Yeah.
the reports are she was very domineering.
Yeah, there's something of a brutal exchange that mother has with Ed, where the father leaves, and what she says is something along the lines of that you shouldn't touch a woman ever, because something like you would happen. I don't remember how she worded it, but she basically made it seem like, look at you. You're the thing that I got from, touching your father. And I don't know. Like again, I do we have proof of any of this? And if not, what are you trying to say here? Are you trying to say that because of his relationship with his mother, he ends up doing what he does? And if not, like she's really strict about things, and they don't really tie a bow around anything. Like she's really strict about him not talking to girls or seeing girls. Um, I forget. Like, is it? Does she think all women are prostitutes, or because I thought he
Supposedly. Um, so Geen has this rather kind of famous story that's in these lost tapes that he tells, but it is similar where he goes out to this neighboring farm to collect a debt with his mother, and the guy happens to be taking this dog, and he's not. So there is some animal cruelty in this, but in the show they go a little light on it. It's just a guy about to drown a puppy. Apparently, it went much further. In the reality, this guy was just like beating this dog senselessly.
Jeez.
And apparently the mother was really upset, but it wasn't because that happened. It's because the guy's girlfriend,
Oh,
who wasn't his wife,
yeah.
came out of the house and chased him, tried to get him to stop hurting the dog. So apparently that really stuck with Ed, was just how much his mother was offended by the fact that he had somebody other than his wife. I can't remember the
S
exact word. I think trollop,
yeah.
that he was around.
So much
So
so that she had a stroke, right? Isn't that like her
y-
stroke when she collapses because of that?
in the show, yes, I don't believe they were related. I think they did like a time compression thing,
Oh,
that where they took that event and the
they took
stroke
liberties,
thing,
you're
but
saying? That's crazy.
I believe that was another liberty that they took, if I remember
Let's keep a counter going. There's the first liberties.
right. Oh, there's more than that. But we didn't talk about any of the actual acting. Charlie Hunnam does an
Oh,
amazing job where I cannot really recognize him. I absolutely hate the accent that he's using, but man, I would not have believed this was Jax if he just showed me a few frames of this.
hmm,
But
fair enough. Yeah. His
and
his
then
his
Laurie
accent
Metcalf, she is yeah,
sure.
I do not like the accent. It is
So
it's grating.
my
It was
my
one of my least
my
favorite
wife
things.
says
But
it
Laurie
sounds like
Metcalf, she's awesome.
my wife sounds says it sounds like Kermit the Frog, and I can't not hear that.
I don't know. I hear ya, but it's something different than that. It's not quite Kermit. It's not quite.
It's a
It's almost
weird
like a Michael
combination.
Jackson, like Kermit Jackson or something.
Yeah.
It's
The
weird.
the problem is his accent wavers at times where I what is he? Is he British? Is he Scandinavian? There's times where he says things and I'm like, "Oh, even with the Kermit voice, your accent
Yeah.
slipped there a little bit." But yeah, I stepped on you twice.
Well,
Laurie
so I believe
Metcalf.
he's Australian, but
Okay.
he's kind of doing like an Irish accent. Like
Yeah.
it's strange.
It's very
But
strange.
yeah, it's an interesting performance. I will give him that. I'm definitely going to remember it. But yeah, Metcalf is awesome. I always love seeing her in something, and man, does she kind of disappear in this
Yeah.
domineering Augusta character.
Yeah, I enjoy her, like, most notably her work on Roseanne, but man,
Mhm.
she was a grumpy, haggard bitch in this show, and, like, it it was, the show got me to really not like her, and, I mean, that's a success, I guess, because I really enjoy Laurie Metcalf and her work, so for whatever that's worth, uh,
uh,
I don't
yeah, no, and she's been in a lot of awesome things, but she never really gets recognition. Sadly, I think people are mostly going to be talking about Hunnam in this. Definitely not her,
mhm.
but man, she really seems like that's an authentic character. I believe that she is that domineering and
Did you
horrible of a mother. But getting back to the mother thing, so the brother thing also happens in this first episode.
Oh.
From what I understand, that is also super not confirmed, but they go hard into we actually get to see it. So
Takes liberties too. Um,
yeah.
yeah, see, like, this is one of the things that's confusing. One of the fact that Mother makes it seem like Ed Gein is the only accident of her marriage. The fact that he has a brother is um like I feel like that's a missed opportunity, or like are they trying to say that Ed Gein is the mistake of the family? And if that were the case, why do they have it seem like Mother like had this like proxy relationship thing with Ed Gein where it was like this this romance that wasn't a romance, this I don't know, this substitution for a partner with her son, and like, when they would dance and eat dinner together, and like it was just this weird, not quite romantic, not quite mother son. It was this really weird area that, again, I don't feel like they committed to it, but they certainly like
No.
brought it up in the air. It was like, what are you trying to say here?
Well, and they're really blaming Augusta, but they're not blaming his father. And his
Right.
father, he used to be successful and he ran like a local store and there was something else that he did. I can't remember, but he ended up selling all that and buying this farm. And then he really went heavy into the bottle and just apparently he was just an abusive drunk. But we don't really get to see any of that. It's just kinda like hands washed of like, "Yep, father's gone." But we're showing just how bad Augusta was. Like, if it's trying to, humanize him or make you somehow side with him, like, I don't know. Why aren't we committing to all of the backstory instead of just this one piece of it, essentially? I don't know. It rubs me wrong what they chose to actually use and then, how they embellish it.
Yeah. Um, so the brother isn't in this very long. I'm trying to remember when something happens in the barn. Um,
Mhm.
what is it? Is Ed Gein not wearing boys' clothes when the brother comes across him?
I don't
I'm
I
trying
don't
to remember what
think
caused
so.
him to fall because he falls and
There's
wipes
so
out.
much that I don't like, from this. No, I think, Ed
Like they
just strikes
pushed him or
him,
something.
because he hit him with a piece of wood, 'cause, he started talking crap about his mom, and nobody does that. You leave Augusta alone.
Hits him with a
You
log.
if
Thank
I
you,
remember
Mom.
right, the brother was saying that he was, moving in with the, I think twice divorced lady, and, he's standing up to his mother, and Ed should too. Ed shouldn't listen to her, and I think that was about it.
Yeah, I
Confirmed by Louise. We're saying that he gets hit with a log.
and then they do this weird thing where, like, through Ed's perspective or whatever, the brother's actually okay, and it starts doing this Rashomon thing where it's like, am I supposed to believe that this guy isn't dead, or was that just a small dusting that he got there on the rock where he was bleeding out of his head? They again, they don't commit. They do this thing where they show you something that, like, the brother is alive and they're having a conversation, but they they don't follow through with any of it. It's like, "Wouldn't this be neat if this was a thing? Yeah, do you wanna wrap this up?" The weird this is the first time that they did something where I was like, "What does that mean?" And,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm trying to
It won't be
fit
the last time, though.
No, no, not
Like,
at
they
all.
they ask a lot of questions, but don't really answer them.
Okay, so Louise, I tend to agree with this. Louise says, I think they're trying to portray Ed's mental illness and separation from reality. Sure.
I think so too, but man, they weigh into that so many times, like, even into the last episode, like, with I guess getting way ahead of ourselves, but, with, Adeline, e there's I I'm still have a bit of ambiguity as to what exactly they were trying to portray with that kinda last conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And so going back to mother, I feel like the morsels that they gave us of their relationship would also influence the fact that she wouldn't want Ed to not only like touch a woman, but like there's almost like this jealousy thing where she goes about it a completely weird, bizarre way where she just like demeans Ed and talks to him like he's
I don't
garbage so that he won't leave her.
Mhm. And they don't, do a good job of kinda showing, the ages and, like, kinda the progression of
Oh
that, but
man, no.
yeah, he was at home with his mother up until I think he was, like, 40, so, he was the man of the house. He was essentially her partner for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like, if you have 8 episodes, 8 hour-long episodes, like, I would really like to know a lot more about these things because they spend a lot of time when we get to the fictional influence, they spend a lot of time, like, I didn't realize I needed that much Tony Perkins in a Ed Gein story, but we'll get to that when we get to it, but
Well, just wait. I would give, $1,000,000 for more Perkins in this. Instead, we got, Spec. So I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah, episode 2, Sick as Your Secrets. So, in this, Ed's starting to have horrific visions, his fascination with death intensifies, and the lines between fiction and reality start to blur. Uh, I forgot he tried to rob a grave in the first one, and then was not able to get the one that he wanted, but a grave.
Yeah,
Uh, and
the
then the second half of this one is all, as you mentioned, Psycho and Perkins. It's just
okay. Um, when he takes his brother and and puts him in a fire or whatever, is that
oh,
the
yeah.
first episode or the second episode where he just kind of
So that's still the first episode,
okay. So he
and
takes his
that is
brother. I'm sorry.
kind of real. Apparently, there was a fire on the farm, and his brother was found near the fire, so it's unclear what exactly happened there. This is kind of the closest that they come to reality, but they definitely made a choice before to show the events before that.
Yeah, so the show is committing to the fact that Ed is responsible for his brother's death, which is interesting because, a show that, had a bit more of a narrative purpose, you would think maybe they could have made a narrative focus be that because his brother died is why he turned and did some of these things. But the one thing that they commit to is basically telling us that Ed is responsible for his brother's death and hiding the body, and it's just
But
interesting.
I don't know. Like again with that though, if you're gonna tell us that later he's able to like completely disassociate and he doesn't know any of this, why did he have the foresight to like cover up the crime and all that? It just I don't know. It doesn't quite work. He's not covering up any of the crimes before. He's just not realizing it's a thing. Like it still doesn't seem consistent.
Right,
I don't know.
right. Yeah, yeah. They just bring something up with no plan on following through with any of it, which is frustrating. So I'm trying to with the second episode, like I'm trying to think when they like really lean into his sexual proclivities and like I don't know what the connection was with his cross dressing, his strangulation, and how that all connected to his crimes. But they had some sort of a through line there, and for as much as Adeline, um, we spend time with her throughout the series, and she's something of a adventurous one in bed. What this show wants us to think is the fact that she is more the influence behind his um, corpse affinity, whether it be
Mhm.
sexually or just interest in them. But at no point does Ed and Adeline cross paths with any of their sexual interests, which I think is interesting because they're certainly taking liberties with her character and
And they
not
threw her under the bus so bad. They essentially make her kind of the catalyst to make him do a whole bunch of stuff, and then, kinda gives him the inspiration to do a whole bunch, and then at the end, again, like, he seems to be in a much better place, and again, they've gotta throw that character down one more time. Just, she's still full of hate, and,
well,
she is sick.
right, even like shit. If you're trying to like commit to the fact that she is like equally as a part of this as anything, for as much as you're having connective tissue throughout this series about the kink, the sexual habits of him, they do go out on a limb and say that she was a bit adventurous. Why not have them just do a Bonnie and Clyde thing where they get
Yeah.
off with each other, and they're into talking about crime scenes and corpses and all this stuff, and like I feel like you've introduced the idea. You could go another step further and just kind of make it make sense as far as a story's concerned.
And there's a way that they could have done that, and I thought that's what they were trying to do at the end with kind of the final meeting with her, but that's not the impression that I got. There is one line that he says, that is very, or that she says that's similar, but I didn't get the impression that, she wasn't there. Instead, it seems like it is an actual person. But not only that, they make it so that she is aware of all of these crimes and she has photographs of them and she's just obsessed with that and true crime. All of that's fake.
All of it.
Also, all of it.
Okay.
And then also she did date him, but it was very casually over the stretch of like 7 months, and she says that she never stepped foot inside of the house, so she had no clue of anything. But, it was a different time, so I think 7 months of dating today, like, you'd probably know if somebody's up to something like this, but who knows back then?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. They went on like a roller skating date, right? I remember.
Mhm,
I thought the cinematography was interesting of their feet, the way the feet were kind of close, and when they were talking, like the the separation between their feet and the location of their feet kind of
mhm.
told the story more than their exchange. I was trying to remember what it was they
Shots
were.
like that were really cool. I wish
Sure,
they would have maintained stuff like that.
sure.
Also in the beginning where he's kinda doing the peeping Tom thing, but,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you.
No,
You were on a train.
I was going to ask you what they were talking about, that I remember the visual more than I remember the discussion, because the feet were telling us that what they
Mhm.
were talking about was something quite interesting, and like the give and take.
It's
I don't remember what they're.
it's interesting to see kind of a conspiratorial conversation, but told by feet. It does kinda make sense. I
I
I
mean,
like that idea.
it's an interesting look. Like, as far as the cinematography is concerned, like I said, I don't remember what they were saying. I remember what you were showing me. Visually, you were showing me something that I can comprehend, like,
Well,
"Oh, ooh, there's a give and
if you
take here."
remember, that was, making him a sympathetic character again and not making him responsible for it because they were actually throwing Adeline under the bus yet again, saying that she's the one who introduced him to crime scene photographs. She's the one who introduced him to the bitch of Buchenwald. That, perhaps if it wasn't for her, he would have been a normal guy. It just I don't
Ye
know, man. I just feel like they did Adeline real dirty in this thing and used her real name.
Yeah, how did she introduce the Bitch of Buchenwald, the comic thing? Because I know he was talking about all the
Uh
crimes in World War II, and he, like, was in the newspaper or something, and then she
think she
intro
said that she got the comics in the city or something like that, if I remember right. But, basically, she just stumbled upon the comics. I don't know exactly how she got the crime scene photos.
yeah, so, again, this series, I don't know, I wouldn't say commits, suggests, says, "Hey, what about this?" a couple of times, but up until that point, arguably Ed gets into a Donnybrook with his brother, and that's unfortunate. But he doesn't have any of these murderous thoughts prior to this comic book, this animated book about the Bitch of Buchenwald, which is, this Nazi book that's like really extravagant and ridiculous. Is the show trying to tell us that he wouldn't have done the things he did if it weren't for this Nazi extravagant comic thing? Because
Maybe. They kinda boil it down to, like, he can't filter between experiences, so anything that he's kind of experienced, somehow keeps manifesting itself in there. So, perhaps, that is kind of yet another, message that I'm taking away from it. If it wasn't for Adeline,
right, right.
this
And
all would have been
Louise
different.
says in the cafe, she gave him the comic with the photos. So the photos, like, she gets from a friend of a friend, and it also is paired up with this larger than life comic book thing, which they then have like this cutscene thing, this stylized, I don't know, interpretation of what's going on there, right down to speaking German, and like really weird, right out of Zone of Interest. It felt like it was just
Mhm.
kind of wild. Um, so essentially, this show is saying if it wasn't for that damn Adeline, Ed would have just been this young, upstanding person who was trying to do right by mother. Like, they really
The
roll on
babysitter.
her. Um, it was. it wasn't at that moment just yet, but I was frustrated that we took a couple of scenes already to discuss his sexual proclivities and not really connect it to anything. And then by the end of
Mhm.
this episode, when we're now with Alfred Hitchcock and Tony Perkins, and this is a thing that, like, hey, you thought you were watching an Ed Gein story? No, you're not. You're watching Tony Perkins and Alfred Hitchcock. And
They
here's
did Tony Perkins pretty good. I was okay with that, but, man, Hitchcock, I think they did dirty as well. Uh,
yeah,
Not my
yeah,
Hitchcock.
yeah. I'm sorry. I don't think they were talking about Ed Gein to that length when they were doing
No, I don't think so.
Psycho. And I'm sorry. Again, going back to sexual proclivities, why would you show us Tony Perkins at home in a closeted relationship about having issues with playing this Ed Gein, who's not Ed Gein, an Ed Gein inspiration character, and his lover is like, you, if you do this, like, you're gonna regret it. I I again, the one connective
It's only
tissue.
so that you can get the payoff of seeing him then go watch himself on the silver screen. Uh,
I don't
I don't know,
I
man.
don't know
It's
why
a
you need.
weird choice.
Why did I need to know about his relationship? Why did I need to know that um he gets blown in a theater while looking at himself? Like, I'm sorry, what are you trying to connect here?
Yeah, and then they very briefly go over his mental health as well. He also, gets some ECT, yeah, the electroconvulsive therapy.
Right.
I don't know. I guess I wasn't expecting to see that in a thing that's supposedly like the biopic of what inspired Psycho.
Right.
I could understand, seeing Hitchcock, like, maybe give some pointers or something like that, but I can't think that he truly inspired every single mannerism, everything on this to the degree that they're really elevating him in this.
I cannot imagine members of the LGBTQ community feeling at all easy with the implications, the inference that this series is making with quote unquote sexual deviance, where I'm sorry, you could have done your little shtick on Tony Perkins and not had his his private life at all mentioned in this. But like, the connective
Or
tissue is these people don't exactly have the same sexual proclivities we do, but um, the one thing they have in common is some interesting characters and things that not all of us do. So that's got to be it, right?
if you're gonna dive into that, like, actually go into it. Don't just, like, wade, like, I don't know, just put your toes in and kind of give this, "Okay, so he went through, struggles with mental health.
Right.
He tried to do conversion therapy and even, like, almost got lobotomized." But, we're not gonna talk about that, and then we're definitely not gonna talk about how this one role kind of shaped his whole life, and he was kinda struggling against it, but then went back for Psycho 2, and then, actually went and directed Psycho 3. We're not gonna get into any of that. We just wanted this one little
Yeah.
snippet,
Yeah.
this weird
Again,
snippet of time.
they just don't commit. This series will have you think that Tony Perkins never looked at Psycho ever again, and Psycho 2 is coming up a few years later, not 20 years later. Like, it's very weird because Anthony Perkins is kind of very much associated with that. Um, I don't understand some of the things that they suggest, but don't follow through
Mhm.
on. What I kept thinking, like, during this stretch of this series was, man, if I were a strong gamer and a series just suggested that, someone playing a video game that has, adult themes in it, like typical, anytime something nasty happens in the news, Grand Theft Auto always gets brought up. Like, that's how irresponsible I felt this series touching on sex the way it did, and so often where it's just like, yeah, what, you better finish your point here because you're just bringing it up, and it's just, I don't know. I
They
don't think
don't.
that's
It's just
proper.
titillating.
Yeah,
It's
because
just
yeah, the moms and the people who would right to Tipper Gore in the '80s. All they need to do is see stuff like this, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, see this Netflix series showed me all I need to know about the LGBTQ community because I saw it on a show, and now I'm gonna go Karen on this shit." Granted, they don't exactly they don't take you there all the way, but they hold your hand that you can come to that conclusion, and that's frustrating. There's too much of this during the series where they're like, "What about this?" And it's just a bunch of what about ideas, and none of them are really finished through. Again, the only thing that I think that they do kind of have connective tissue on is sexual proclivities. Like, the one thing all of this shit has in common is they all kind of have, interesting sexual taste, and I don't appreciate that. As a vanilla boy, I was like, you can't do that." Like, that if you're going
No
to do
wild
it, you
horses for you?
No. Um, Troy says they went to New York to implicate she was also a murderer, to further
Mhm.
assassinate this actual person's character, real classy by Mr. Murphy there.
Just wait, the real New York Ripper.
So
It will be revealed.
good, get the Dexter community involved, great. Um, did was the New York aspect her going away from the big city or going to the big city, was that as early as episode 2? I don't remember if it was that early.
No,
Okay.
that's episode, 5, Ice, where the focus shifts to Adelaide, whose own life is fracturing. So we've got a little bit from there.
Okay.
So 3 is the babysitter, and that's, Ed's lonely search for connection leads him to a violent, grotesque encounter tied to a babysitter. So this does have some part of reality in there. Apparently, he was known as a babysitter, and he was known as, like, kind of the good babysitter in town that, he really knew how to connect with kids, and he really could talk to them on their level. So, yeah, but, there is a babysitter, I think she was 14, so in this, show, they age her up a little bit, and then we get to use I can't remember her name, she's a star on her own, Adelaide something, gets
Addison
to come
Rae?
in and guest star. Addison, sorry, thank you.
Too
I
many
don't know
A
why.
words.
The A names, they all sound the same to me. So, like, I guess I can understand why they're doing that, but, in all actuality, there isn't an actual connection. They tried to find one and couldn't find one at the time, so it's just kind of a mystery. She disappeared, but it is near him, so there's a possibility. But, again, they're saying yes, they fully went down that route with this one.
Yeah, so he's I forgot, just like so Ed decides that he wants to, or at least try to marry, um, what's her face, and she brings up having children, and like there's this will they, won't they throughout the series where like they're missing each other with certain things, and he wants to prove to her that he can take care of children, and then he takes a babysitting job where um I don't wait, was
Well,
it
and they
that
also
early?
make it so that Adeline, excuse me, is the one who gets him that babysitting job. So they, again, keep throwing her
Yeah.
down and under the bus. She is responsible for everything.
I'm telling you, the one thing this show is trying to tell you is it's all her fault too. Don't forget her.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember. I when he does like the magic tricks, that's kind of late, right? Because he has
Yeah, that's this one.
is it?
So he does the trick for the kids, and then, he gets his babysitting job stolen from him, or his gig.
I'm trying to think. So he uses his bowls, and he has a costume that how did he get that costume already?
So he tried to dig up his mother, but, I believe they made it in this one that it was metal or something that he couldn't get in. I guess in actuality, it was like a cemented in thing where he couldn't actually get to her, but the grave next to her was still pretty fresh, so he was able to get, his mother's neighbor. But,
Right.
and then, there's another, lady, the, one that Adeline sort of, the whatever you wanna call that, her son was accused of something, and then when she brings it up, it somehow makes her have a heart attack or whatever. So there's this, homemaking teacher that, Adeline hates that,
Hmm.
she gives him the scoop on her grave as well.
Yeah. So, so the show will have you think that um, Ed is not very good with children. If anything, he freaks them the fuck out, and he does weird corpse magic tricks. Um, and and then he loses his gig, but the woman that the family that he was babysitting for hire this girl that Ed is stalking for a bit, and like he follows her home, and I'm trying to remember what the fuck because I
So, it also kind of, is the inspiration for Halloween. He's kinda Michael Myersing it, where he's just standing there
oh
menacingly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, he was also responsible for that. He inspired that film franchise as well. He really inspired everything.
yeah,
It's just kind of amazing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just really hoping that they were gonna dive more into any of this stuff, but man, this whole episode, none of it seems to be real or
yeah.
anything like that.
I feel like considering like the again the suggestion, the fact that there's this Nazi comic book thing that is like this extravagant, larger than life bitch of Buchenwald thing. If we're gonna spend time with all of the fictional influence and we're gonna discuss Tony Perkins and his love life for a little bit, why not show us the thing that inspired the bitch of Buchenwald, like that real thing, and have that be something that isn't as extravagant and like again, this would be something you'd commit to and let us know that you know these real life things when they get into the hands of artists or whatever that are trying to like give you some extravagant story to satiate I don't know like a scandalous need for these things um it could have had this I don't know this y- extravagant crime begets more extravagant crime but in the end it all stems from something that wasn't quite as bad as, the art is making it out to be, but I also feel like this series was not trying to piss off, people that enjoy that stuff. Like, it almost wanted to point the finger at the audience and say, "You're the ones that are here watching this shit. How why do you think that is?" But it again, it just suggests it. Like, we go to such great lengths to to just bring these things up, but there's no real follow through on it. Uh, I don't understand. Like, what was the through line for all of this?
Adeline Bad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly, because then we get to episode 4, which is Green, and Ed's pulled between 2 different women, and, the show then jumps to a small town in Texas and a very inspired,
Ugh.
filmmaker, the Toby Hooper part.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm almost kind of insulted for Toby Hooper too.
Yeah.
Because apparently Toby Hooper, the only thing that he cares about is Janet Leigh's pussy. Um, because there's a conversation that Toby Hooper's having with his fellow enthusiast of things to smoke. Um, which also, by the way, the series, the one thing that like if you watch this documentary called 7852, it discusses how Psycho through editing masterfully stayed within the lines and had you think that you saw things like Janet Leigh's pussy or tits. Because of the edit being so flashy and quick, there's things that happen that you think you saw, but you don't. You don't see genuine nudity. But this show, when they have this like homage to Psycho, you have like full on nudity in this Psycho recreation thing, and it again, it's irresponsible because that's not what happened in that movie. So,
Well, and it's so over the top
hmm
too, and I don't know, like, Gus Van Sant, at least when he, like, redid it, he at least looked at what was going on, and he got the same intention, but instead, we're getting the swirl around the drain and all these different, stab things and even the costume, but
but
man, it takes so much away from what Hitchcock was able to do and the way that he was able to shape this, where none of that happened.
right.
He wasn't literally pulling, like, lines of dialogue and actual shots that happened
And
in that moment, like,
and again, so by the time Psycho was made, Ed Gein had finished. He had done all of his crimes. So you're taking something that we don't know how things happen with Ed Gein because I don't think they had shown us that yet. So like you're trying to tell us, the show audience, that this is the way Ed Gein did things, but you have not shown us that through what is real life for him up until that moment. So, like within this show, you're having us understand that the movie Psycho itself took liberties, even though the real movie Psycho didn't take those liberties. But in the film, like in the series, you're showing us things that didn't happen, and then the next step is Toby Hooper getting ready to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the thing that he's talking about is they didn't show enough in Psycho, but in this series they showed more than the actual movie did. And what?
he's been inspired by this forever, and he's just an expert on it. He's studied this meticulously. Um, I don't know, man. And then, of course, then we have to give Ed an actual chainsaw because, that can't just be part of what Toby Hooper brought to this. It's actually part of the canon now. You don't understand. Even the way that he flails it around, that's
Yeah.
not on Toby Hooper. He didn't come up with that.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, like the true thing that you connect Ed Gein to Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like the lampshade, the wearing
And
different faces.
the suit, yes.
That chainsaw shit, that is not Ed Gein.
Well, now it is. Now people are gonna associate that as, that was just a ripoff of what Ed Gein actually did because, they saw it where, Toby Hooper has talked about the story of where he got the chainsaw from. And they even put it in here that, like he was standing in line and then, it was just kind of one of those intrusive thoughts. Uh, I don't know why we then had to show Ed Gein actually like taking out people with it, actually running after them.
Well, because
Uh,
he knew what he was going to influence, and so he wanted to act out the thing that he hadn't done, but will influence and then retroactively retcon himself into doing those things because movie, show, movie,
the
series.
the the part that really, really pissed me off was, then the very infamous hammer and bucket scene with, the
Oh,
grandfather, the patriarch of the family, and,
from Texas
Texas
Chainsaw
Chainsaw.
Massacre. Yeah.
They there's many documentaries on it, but they talk about that scene and, like, how they made that scene and what the inspirations were, and it was not an actual thing from Gein. Like, it really sucks that they literally taking every bit of these moments, the every bit of the chainsaw work, actually running down these 2 hunters that went missing on the property, or near the property. That's correct, but again, they couldn't really link them together, so
Yeah,
that may be, it may not, but 100% they were not taken out by a chainsaw.
right. So by this point, like I'm not incredibly married to the true crime community. I like I'm someone where if it really happened, I really don't want there to be entertainment about it. Art is one thing,
Mhm.
tastefully done, whatever. So I'm not really speaking on behalf of the true crime community, but for the film community, At this point, the psycho thing kind of fucked me up. With the Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing, I was like, all right, now you're just fucking around here, and like I don't like you're kind of being bullshit. Like this is all bullshit at this
Well,
point. Well, what?
the end
I
of
hear what you're saying.
the end of episode Green, I believe that's when Adeline learns of what happened, and then she starts taking some photographs of her own. You don't understand. The Gein case, it also inspired Nightcrawler. Everything has been inspired by the Ed Gein story. Just every single movie.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. In film school, we talked about when we were talking about horror stuff. Ed Gein never came up. Never came up. So
I mean, I knew that he was an inspiration, but in
right.
that, furniture and masks, but it's not like they looked and, "Hey, what was the line that was used here? How do you think he swung a chainsaw?"
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, even American Psycho, when they had the one line, like, what, I forget what he says, what would look good, or what, like he quotes something about Ed Gein, but it was actually Ed Kemper. Like, it was one of those things
mm,
where, even as far back as what, 2000, when American Psycho came out, like, uh, I like, I think we're retroactively remembering things differently because I don't, when Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, I I I don't know, when I talked about this shit when I was a kid, we weren't like the real life stuff was really, I don't know, you're kind of sick when you're a kid. You want to find out as much as you can, like, oh, this is based on real
sure.
things. Like, I want to talk about it. I don't
They give
remember.
you that awesome John Larroquette, monologue at the beginning of it, and just, man, that is awesome, but they don't tell you this is based on the life and times of Ed Gein.
Right,
Like,
right. Like my uncles were essentially older brothers for all intents and purposes. They didn't scare me out about like, uh, trust me, if they had the chance to, they were gonna fucking freak me out with this really happened. These people really did this. But I did not hear about Ed Gein when we were talking about things like Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I feel like I don't know what what is your point, show? What are you trying to tell me? Because I feel like you
Adeline bad.
Yeah. Yeah, um I don't know. And so true crime, probably pissed. Film community, certainly pissed. Um, and the estate of Adeline has got to be fucking furious.
Yeah, she probably wishes she never did an interview. Like, all the information that they have of her came from, like, one interview that she did. Really sucks. That's not a great legacy to leave behind, but, I guess that brings us to episode number 5. We're halfway there. We just talked about, Texas Chainsaw. So what do we do now that we have this momentum? Let's just completely go a different way, and let's focus on Adeline and her trips to New York, or trip to New York. Uh it's interesting, but, yeah, apparently she was not into true crime photography. She did not take, actual true crime photographs of Ed Gein's, atrocities, and then, yeah, she wasn't trying to get gainful employment from that. She also didn't make up that she worked for, a, news organization and then bug people for interviews.
I I think it's interesting that yet again what this show commits to is she goes out to New York City, you know, on her own, and she doesn't look back. She has an affair with someone right before leaving, even though she isn't sleeping with Ed Gein at this point. Before she goes off to the big city, she has something of a, again, a non traditional sexual encounter. Um, and then when she gets to New York City, she isn't getting work, but she's staying in a hotel that it's really cold. Which, by the way, she leaves Wisconsin, and New York City's colder. Um,
Yeah.
I have questions. So she's in.
Well, she left her heavy coats in Wisconsin. You don't need those in the big city. I
um,
mean, that's kind of interesting, and landlord troubles. Anyone who's had an apartment knows those, but
But
man, why are we talking about that in this story?
but then the hotel runner or whatever, the woman who's sitting in a nice lit warm room when she's interrupted by Adeline, whatever. She implies that she could go sell herself to someone else to get the money or shack up with someone. And that is what's offensive to Adeline, which
Mhm.
I thought was like, what? So the thing that they're claiming here in this show is, listen, she's got some fucked up thoughts, but she's not going to sell herself for sex, which I don't know, like, considering what you've shown us up until now, what the fuck is the difference?
Well,
Why
she's
would
got
you?
a line. She'll photograph depravity and, she'll give her garments away to be participate in that, but she will not get paid for any sort of acts. It is interesting, and then on top of that, what they kind of end it with that, same landlord lady who, implied that she had other means. Man, they just keep backing over Adeline. It's kinda crazy.
And and before she leaves, she tells Ed Gein that, because Ed Gein wants to send it in before she goes. Something along the lines of, "I'll wait for you, but can you just give me something to remember you by?" And this is yet another bit of Adeline bad. She suggests the idea of him taking one of his frozen buddies and practicing on
Yeah.
the corpses.
Before, he just collected parts and, made furniture, but the thought had never crossed his mind, and then Adeline opened up his eyes. Again, she is just the worst.
She's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to put out, but you know what would be great for you? While I'm gone, since you already have these bodies, why not stick it in that?" And, yeah, but she won't sell herself for money, which is fucking what? She suggests
Well,
banging a corpse, but, she's got standards. What?
yeah, and so did she only go there with, like, 1 week's rent or what? Because if you're going in there with 2 weeks' rent, maybe you can use part of that 2nd week's rent and get the heated room and then figure out a way to make money. I don't know, it's New York, man. You can find a way to make some money.
Yeah, again, they don't make they don't commit to certain things. They just merely like, huh? Um, listen. I realize that we're taking liberties, and if you think about anything we're telling you right now, it really doesn't make sense. But what about this? We're going to try to bring up as much as possible. It's just so odd. So yet again, this series is having you think that, man, if it weren't for Adeline, Ed Gein would have just had a little accident with his brother. He wouldn't be doing all this wacky shit with corpses and things.
Yeah, there is a monster in this story. Apparently, it's Adeline.
Yeah. Um, I think the funny thing is, uh, I don't know if it's this episode, but when she returns back, tail between her legs, she heads back to the little town, and she decides, you know what, fuck it, I'm ready for you, Ed. And she offers herself to him, after failing in the big city. He tells her, I need it to be colder because he got used to the fucking corpse. So he had Adeline sit in a fucking cold bath or whatever. And just as she left New York City, the big cold city, uh,
Mhm.
she turned Ed on to banging the corpses. And what do you know, her luck that now he's kind of into the cold stuff. And she's got to go back to being cold. And I I don't know why that scene was in there again, because
Just to
we
paint her horribly, that,
yeah,
she wasn't willing to sell herself, but she will, act as a corpse for him. Strange.
but she could have just like she was a hot shot in the small town. She could have at least gotten around a little bit. Like I don't know what the I don't understand. Like what are you trying to tell me, show?
Adeline bad.
Yeah.
Uh, so her relationship kind of falls apart, and Ed gets a little bit more extreme with his acts of desecration. Which brings us to episode 6, Buxom Bird. Uh, you know, uh, there's another person that it kind of throws under the train, under the bus, so to speak, and that is Bernice Warden, who's the local
The store
hardware
owner?
shop owner,
Mm.
the store owner, yeah. And just man, in this, they really dramatize her motivation. The fact that she's apparently caused somebody to do the most unspeakable act because of her infidelity, and then on top of that, she's on these diet pills. She's not able to eat a whole bunch of just weirdness to just undermine this character and just make her very off-putting in a weird way, where in actuality, and then her to be very interested in Ed, and then also present him with a present of, exactly what he wants, which is apparently women's garments. It's
Yeah.
very strange. Apparently, all of that's made up. Just he did happen to go into a hardware store and he needed to get antifreeze, and people remember that interaction, and then they were able to find a receipt that tracked him, the selling of antifreeze to him. And he just committed that crime while in there, but there was no like dating or long story or anything like that behind him.
Yeah, and this episode, this stretch here, um, yet again tries to connect sexual proclivities where, like, she's kind of smitten at the idea that young Ed Gein is into her, and while they're, I don't know, consummating their relationship, Ed Gein decides to show her a little bit of a secret, and Ed's dressed up in women's undergarments, and she, like, laughs, but, like, in a flirtatious way, like, she's accepting of it, like, she thinks it's, "Okay, this is fun," and it's weird because I guess what we're supposed to be thinking is that this is, like, a proxy for Ed Gein's relationship with his mother, and it's a woman that's older than him that, is accepting of,
Not only that, she's yes-anding. She's accepting, but then she's giving presents of it too. She's
Mhm.
encouraging.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how that relationship went sour because it definitely goes sour.
So Ed has a talk with his mother,
Oh,
and
okay.
she tells him that she is literally a venereal disease. So then he has to have that conversation with her and, break it up after she's been nothing but nice to him.
Yeah, and then they get into a fight at the store, and it is the weird exchange where, like, they just fought, and then Ed Gein's like, "Can I look at that rifle?" And she's like, "Why don't you just leave?" And he's like, "Well, don't you want this customer?" And then she
She
hands
also
him
knows that he doesn't have money, but apparently he has a bullet.
Yeah, like, this is the one thing where, like, I don't know, you've lost me as far as, you know, suspension of disbelief, but like, when that happened, I'm like, fuck you." Like, what do you she's gonna hand him the gun that he's gonna shoot her with after they fight? I I don't. I No. Louise says, "How long
Yeah.
till it's announced that Adeline and Bernice's family have taken legal action against Ryan Murphy?"
I have no clue. I would be upset, but then I don't know. Do you want to do the Streisand effect and draw more eyes to this thing? Although it is number one on Netflix, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Again, granted, I don't have a very decorated understanding of the history of Ed Gein, but um, if all of this shit were remotely close to it, I think I would have. I would imagine the Ed Gein movies would have been a hell of a lot more interesting. There would be a hell of a lot better fiction out there about him if any of this were half true.
Do you think that's the issue, is just filling 8 hours of this? That they're just puffing it up in every direction? Or
Perhaps. Well, I
'cause,
mean,
man, these last 2 episodes just
shit. The Menendez brothers thing. I have not seen that, to be fair, but I remember after
I
that
heard
series. Go on.
sorry, I did the same thing. I didn't end up watching it. I heard a bunch of reviews that's like, "Wow, this is they just got the wrong tone on this. They're really approaching this wrong."
Yeah.
So I don't know, it does kind of make me wanna go back and see it, but, I don't know, maybe I'll wait for the what's it, Lizzie Borden, the next one?
Oh yeah. Yet another one crime. See, the Dahmer thing worked because there were so many victims. These people that have two victims, and you're stretching it into, you know, 8 episodes. Like, what are you going to talk about? Louise says he said how he killed Bernice. He was in the shop getting antifreeze and was checking out a gun and shot her by accident. Well, that's not what the show is telling you. The show definitely takes a stance and says, nope, they had a fight, and this is how it happened. WZ says, I couldn't get through the first episode of this one. At least the Menendez caught my attention.
Man, if you want a trip, though, you might wanna just check out the last episode.
Ugh.
Just there is nothing like it, and what the hell?
Yeah. Um,
But
uh,
yeah, so at the end of, I think Bucks and Birds, the end of 6, all of a sudden, because of Bernice Warden's disappearance, it seems like they're able to track it back to the Gein farm, and then, he kinda gets discovered. But, they also kinda took liberties with that. So apparently, they did go in the barn first in reality and knew what was going on, and then they saw the horrors that were in the house. But, they kinda did it reverse way in the show, which fair enough. I think it is rather stupid that it's like, "But nobody thought to check the giant barn that everyone's parked in front of?"
mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember the tail end. I was just kind of looking at the watch. Like after the fourth or fifth episode, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't fucking care. I don't care. Just get there. And man, they go somewhere toward the end.
So, yeah, then we get episode 7, Ham Radio, which,
Oh
this episode deepens Ed's psychological unraveling, excuse me, showing his inner hallucinations, his warped obsessions, and how his myth begins to birth in public imagination.
yeah.
Here's where you get the first wild horses, I believe.
So so he gets money from what the fuck was he? Oh, this things from his house.
Yeah,
So he starts coming into some money. And what he wants to
that's
get is 3 ham radios. And I remember thinking, "What?" Um, and was I the only one that took the ham radio section as metaphors for the internet when they had him talking to the bitch of Buchenwald, and they have that split screen where they're kind of facing each other, talking into the things as if they were both on a desktop computer, as if to say, "This is how fucking lunatics share things now is over the internet."
it's yes, I definitely didn't get that at the moment. I just had a whole lot of face palming, like, "This did not happen,
Right.
like, what are you doing?" Um, eh, that is kind of one of the more I don't know if I'd call it tasteful, but, at least there's some sort of payoff on that, like, "Haha, you're right. This isn't what it seems." But, man, there's just so much that is, hmm, wrong with this. So it does start out with kind of they're going through the house and seeing all the atrocities and everything. And the deputy who has found his mother, Bernice Warden, in a very horrible state, it seems to really affect him. But it looks like the sheriff, nothing really affects him. They also changed that for this story, which is really weird because
No.
he actually well, in interrogating Gein, it was actually the sheriff who beat the shit out of him and just kept going, and he couldn't control himself
Hmm.
after seeing the atrocities and the horrors that were discovered at the Gein farm, to the point where it almost tanked, the whole investigation, and he had to essentially confess to all this in the trial as well.
Huh.
Um, but they just kinda make him kind of a saint in this, other than he forces his deputy to drink. But, I don't know, it's just weird where they chose to take the liberties when it seems like a really compelling actual story. Like, I would want to see a sheriff so overcome by the discovery that, they are unable to help themselves, as opposed to
Yeah.
perhaps the sheriff burned down the farm, who knows?
Yeah, because that's something I could understand. Maybe not relate to, but certainly understand.
Yeah. But no, we're going a different way with it.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's really strange. They do get into some of the psychology of, Ed, but they're also doing it in between the ham radio bits, and, some of his, hallucinations and the fact that he actually ends up getting some sort of, medication to, kinda
Yeah.
tame his diagnosis.
So again, if they committed to a thing, if this ham radio thing, which again I like really felt was kind of overt with their metaphor for how crazies communicate in modern day. Um, I would have appreciated if they gone a step further, and I guess they sort of do when it's just a different communication method when the prisoner with tits contacts.
Spec.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if they had done that same gimmick for Spec, I kind of I don't know. Again, sexual proclivities. Um, if your metaphor is on like how easy it is for people who aren't like the rest of us to spread their messages with one another and kind of get a new audience for these things. I kind of wish they went a little bit further with that and had that spiral out into different audience members.
100%. Because that is kinda what they're going for, is
Yeah.
to see how this begins to birth the public imagination. But man, and they get into some of that where they're about to hold an auction at the farm, and it just, the deputy ends up, auctioning, well, before the auction even happens, he's charging admission to go see the items that could be up for auction. Apparently that's, I don't know if he charged for admission, but they did advertise the hell out of it, have a bunch of people come in and look at it, and then last minute, just before the auction, it did burn down.
Right, right. Like, so that's an interesting idea. Like, oh, people who want to see this, like there's a line around the building or whatever, like oh, it's kind of fucking gnarly that people would pay to just walk through the guy's house. Um Again, it's a thing that you bring up, like, what about this? But there's no payoff. There's no people are interested in this, and so this happens. The same thing with the ham radio thing. They have the ham radio thing where they're having, two fucking mentally unwell people discussing their crimes and things, and then they're like, no, that's not real." And
They're also kinda intersplicing, like, scenes of, like, the doctor, though, like, interrogating him, or somebody in a lab coat also asking him, like, the same
but
questions.
but like
So I really thought they were gonna do something with that.
right, like that's the point where it's like, yeah, all right, I'm with you, show. That's a really good premise. You bring up a good point. Where are you going with this? And then every time it's just like, no, never mind, never mind. No, the house is burned down, so we don't care about the spectacle of people lining up to pay to see some fucking lunatic's house. Oh, never mind. Not We're not going to give you a metaphor for the internet and how crazies talk to each other because this isn't really happening. It's like, but these are things that are great questions, and
But we're also not gonna let you, like, discover this on your own or reveal it. Instead, we're just gonna have some character just say it in a line of dialogue.
Mhm. Um, Louise says they did it in real life with Ed's car. Carnival bought it and charged 25 cents to see it.
They did.
I believe it.
Sadly, I believe it was a Chevrolet, but, yeah, sadly, the house did burn down, so they weren't able to auction that stuff off, but they were able to auction off the car, and, yeah, it was quite the attraction.
Yeah, so in the show, like the sheriff they they lead you to the water, but they don't give you the drink. Where it's kind of implied, inferred that the sheriff really isn't in agreement with the charging tickets for Ed Gein's house, and he's the first one at the scene uh, after the fire. But they don't go as far to tell you who started that fire. But if you're
Mhm.
of the mind to think that because the sheriff was so turned off by that, he started the fire, but they don't give you that information. It's very frustrating that they have these great questions, these great ideas to bring up, but they just don't commit to any of these things where it's just like you bring up a question and then you pull it back and it's never mind, don't worry about it. On to the next thing. It's really
The
frustrating.
next thing is apparently just a different show. For some reason, they get some dead ringers who look just like the 2 leads from Mindhunter, and, they show them just blurry enough in a car that looks very similar to one from the show, dressed very similar to how they would be dressed in that show, and just man, and then they even, get them to interview some of the same actors and some of the same serial killers from Mindhunter, and it's just it is such a strange juxtaposition going from parts of that to this, that just seems like, "Oh, okay, so literally every bit of media is just inspired by Gein." Like, this is just
Yeah, Louise says it was
and
rumored
then
that the townspeople burnt
oh,
it
sorry,
down.
please go ahead.
It was rumored that the townspeople burned it down, but here it was the sheriff. Right, like, again, for the narrative, for again, this isn't true. This is whatever the taking liberties with the story. For the sake of the narrative, you could be like, the people around town didn't want their town to be remembered for a spectacle, or the sheriff
Mhm.
doesn't want this thing to be a spectacle. You could even like, I mean, fuck, you're taking liberties anyway. Have it be like a sheriff doesn't want people to think that he didn't do his job in his town, and like that's why he doesn't want to be reminded of it. But they don't they they give you pieces, but they never connect the two. It's really frustrating.
Well, and then, I believe in the same episode, they also then, show you, I believe don't we get the first, like, letter from Spec, I believe, or at least our introduction to Spec and
Dude,
his
our
cellmate
introduction to
or
Spec
whatever?
is like it took me a minute because all we see is tits, and like we're
I
in
mean,
jail, and I'm like,
good
wait,
practical effects, I guess?
I don't know if apparently that's a real human being and they really had tits.
Oh, I was fooled. Then, never mind. Way to commit to the bit.
Well, I don't know if the actor was real, but apparently the person that
Oh,
Spec
Spec.
is inspired
Yes,
by.
yes, yes. Sorry, I just meant in this, presentation of it, I
Sure.
was like, "Wow, they found somebody who looks very similar then
Yeah.
that did that."
So
Uh, yeah,
it
Richard Speck was a weirdo. They'll probably do him next, but,
yeah. So this is where like again the connective tissue of this is um like he's offering sexual favors in exchange for drugs in jail, and he's telling a story about how he wouldn't have gotten caught except there was a nurse that was hiding in a house where he got rid of all of the other nurses, and because of her, he got caught. Um, I don't know why the connective tissue between Ed Gein and Speck is their
well,
sexual
he
habits.
inspired him as well. But that's the other thing, like, you had to have a prolonged sex scene
Yep.
before you get that, exposition to let you know, so, again, that follows the same pattern that you've been kind of pointing out here, that it's, you have these weird proclivities,
Yeah.
so, this is obviously a bad person. I don't know. I just don't know why we needed, like, a it felt like it was a 5-minute,
Oh yeah.
love scene. I don't know. It just it feels like you could imply that with so much less, but,
Right.
yeah, they really went for it.
Yeah, like, and again, as someone as vanilla can be, like, I don't appreciate the inference that, people that are, adventurous in the bedroom, like, the connective tissue is that they're fucking psychos, and I wouldn't have made that connection here, but man.
Well, but didn't you hear, Richard Speck at the end of his giant monologue said, like, Geen is the black-hearted god or something? I can't remember exactly what it is, but you don't understand, he's a god to him. That's how much he has changed. That's how much he's influenced his
You could
life.
you could have that. I don't do it over a fuck scene is all
I
I'm saying.
I don't think any serial killer is going to give anybody else the credit that they are the god to them, but, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being naive here.
Louis says, I also don't think serial killers would say that they were inspired by someone else. They were narcissists and would want the attention
Mhm.
for themselves. They wouldn't want anyone else taking credit. You're right.
Much more eloquent way of saying what I was trying to say. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And then the pen pals. And
Mhm.
so what we know
I think
about
thinking of
Ed Gein.
Ted, uh, first in this, and then I think the pen pal is the final episode, but I could be wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, so let me just. We might be talking about this later, but for the sake of right on top of my mind right now,
Deal,
um,
the pen pal.
pen pal spec sends Ed Gein some paperwork, a letter in the mail, a dear John. No, not a dear John. Um, some pictures, and in this letter, yet again, we're reminded of Spec's tits, and attention is brought to the tits a couple of times. And the thing that I think is interesting is at no point in this series did this series make this claim that Ed Gein was into trans women. He liked to dress up like women, apparently had sex with women, but was not into trans women. So what are you trying to say here, show?
I don't think they knew 'cause, it is kinda interesting 'cause he also liked to dress up
Yeah.
like women, but he didn't wanna be with men or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it is strange. He was making the suit that would essentially make him his mother, but from the reports, it's supposedly that he would finally get to feel that feeling of actually being once again inside of her or whatever, which horrible, but,
But
yeah,
but
it seemed like that was more the
dressing
thing, so I don't know.
dressing up and having tits or being envious of tits, I don't think is anything that they were giving us in this show. So
Hmm,
I don't know, like it just feels really sloppy, irresponsible. I don't know. I'm sorry. So I
100%.
I wanted to get my brain blurb out. What were we up to?
Uh, so, now we're on the final episode, The Godfather, where, they're once again implying that Geen is the godfather of everything. He inspired everything, and, they're really gonna hammer that home in this one.
Ugh.
So I think it starts with I can't remember if the last one ended with we meet Ted and we see him with 2 girls, or if this one starts with Ted, but
Yeah.
we kinda continue with that Ted journey, and then, we do get the letter from, Speck, who also includes Ted's letter to him or Theodore's letter to him, and then,
Mhm.
the pictures of Speck, because everybody wants pictures of Speck.
Mhm.
But, yeah, from there, we get that, Geen is different. He is much older now. He seems to be under control, and he really seems to be a good guy in his
He's taking
final
his
years in the
meds.
institution. Mhm. Unfortunately, he gets a, bad diagnosis, so, he kinda knows the end is coming, but, still, he wants to do some good in this world. So he calls the FBI and, you know, he becomes a hero in his final days, apparently. And yeah, apparently he's responsible for doing an anonymous tip, not so anonymous, the tip that led to the capture of, I was about to say Bud Bundy, of Ted Bundy. Um, yeah, so that's all fictitious.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're really trying to make him a hero and a godfather and an inspiration in this final episode. But man, when I saw that they were doing that, I I kept punching the air in front of me. It was not great.
Yeah,
I could not believe they went that way.
is this their not so subtle way of trying to remind us that Ed Gein influenced Silence of the Lambs, and somehow Ed Gein, because he has a certain thought process that he's able to figure out who they could be looking for based on the internal network of serial killers?
Well, it's, like, worse than that. Apparently, he was told exactly who it would be, and, he knows the guy's name, and he knows what he drives, and he knows how good his car is. So, he knows that this Florida area has to be him, but he would have stolen another Beetle because his Beetle isn't good enough. So he just gives them every tip that they need in order to find this guy, and just man,
Well,
it
he says it
it
rains a
really
lot, so
sucks.
it has to be Seattle.
Yeah, it just I truly hate this, and not only that, but the FBI that he's telling is the 2 agents that we know from Mindhunter. Not only that, but he tells them a bunch of key details that they need to know about serial killers, and he really gets the ball rolling. Like, when he says each thing, like, "This guy spent a lot of time alone." You can see both of the agents kinda scratching their chin like, I'll note that. Loners. Okay." Yeah, it's just it's so strange. It's over the top, but, yeah, all fake. And then we go
Well,
from there to, oh, sorry, go right ahead.
no, then he gets, I guess the visit from Adeline is right towards the end, if not right at the end, with the list.
Somewhere. Yeah, it's somewhere towards then where, we can throw Adeline under the bus one more time. I don't think we talked about it, but, in the, I think, previous episode, she poses as a reporter and harasses the, poor deputy who lost his mother and starts asking him
Oh,
some vile questions as well.
yes.
So,
And I thought that
you
that
know,
was a
more
j
bad person.
I thought that was a like, another time where they could have been pointing, but weren't gonna
Mhm.
commit to it, where they could be pointing to, the true crime community and self-made journalists. I'd have to rewatch the scene again, but the fact that she doesn't have the proper outlet, it reminded me that maybe they were making a claim. Again, they don't really commit to any of this. They just bring up these ideas. But when I was experiencing that scene, I was like, "Ooh, are they going to go as far as to say that, you know, certain journalists aren't prepared for their work?" And
There's so many
they
ways they
didn't.
could have done that,
Right, right.
but they didn't pay off anything with, the crime scene photographer. Like, they made a big deal about him, but of course, we're not gonna go back to that. We're not gonna talk about him, like, photographing the Gein house or anything like that. Just so many things that they could have talked about, and then the meeting at the end with Adeline, again, there's so many ways that that conversation could have gone. There's hints of it where, like, they mention, "We were always the same," or something like that. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it's like, "Oh, are they gonna do, like, this big twist, and maybe there's a reason why he looks 40 years older and she looks exactly the same?" But no, they don't even, like, really go down that route. Like, there's just so many ways that they could have had a message to any part of this, and it feels like they don't. It's just what will be most shocking.
David Flax in the chat says, I interpreted the whole Ted Bundy and Speck thing being a part of his delusions, him being the hero in his own delusions. That's
It
fair,
definitely could be.
but I wouldn't have the amount of perspectives that they do then, because there's that like half dying dream sequence thing where like there's music
Well,
going on.
I mean, we did get to see what was going on in Buchenwald and everything like that. Like, we did get to see what was going on with Elsa. So I get what he's saying. Just for sure when we get the staircase scene, and
Mm.
then also the like Super Friends dance number at the end. Those for sure are his delusions, but I don't know. I'm still unclear. They don't make it. It's not like it's ambiguous. It's just unconnected, where it seems like this is
Yeah,
real in
and
this world.
if it were his perspective, the whole situation where she brings him a list to, like, I think she says something about her diagnosis that she's taking medication to treat
hmm
her, and but she
But
has a
she's just
list.
diagnosed with mania. Like, who hasn't been manic? Come on.
um, I
But she does have a, hit list, so to speak, where he has now turned a new leaf, not only after he had solved, that, crime and he took credit for it, which fair enough, maybe that could be a delusion, and then you do immediately see a delusion where he's, like, going up the stairs to see his mother, and it's a well-lit stair, like, he is definitely ascending, and he goes up there, and then she says, "You have changed the world." Um Fair enough. I might need to revisit that. Just watching it, it seemed very unclear and just so many tonal
well,
shifts.
all of it is I think kind of getting to the point. I think they just give you ideas, and they're not gonna like make a decision one way or another, but you could interpret it in so many different ways. Like me with the her being a journalist, like I there was enough there where I was like, "Ooh, are they're gonna fucking take jabs at the true crime community?" But that could just be my interpretation because there was a couple times they flirted with things that, they gave enough that I could come to my own conclusion, and that's fine if there's like one main narrative and you get the audience to come to a conclusion, but to everyone have their own little version of the story, like that's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
So, can I ask you, do you think that his final meeting with Adeline happened? Or
I don't
there were
think
so many
any of this
cuts.
happened. How about that?
Well, fair enough. In the world where the events that we saw, like, did take place in this fictional world of Ed Gein, was Adeline there? Is there a reason why she didn't look aged up at all? Because there were, like, 3 shots back where I'm like, "Oh, okay, they're gonna show that she's not there," and they don't. They make a conscious effort to show that she's there.
I don't think the show wants it. Well, I don't know what the fucking show wants us to think. I don't think so.
I don't know either, but I thought they were going for a message there, and it's like, "Oh, no, okay, I
Well,
don't know."
it's like again, if anything, they'll bring it up just for you to think about it, but not really commit to any one way or another. Jacob says Charles owes that chick Medusini an apology. LOL. This show is as bad as she said it would be for the same reason she said it would be. Yeah, I would. I don't know if it weren't such a weird exchange there with the request and the video reaction. I would be curious to have a chat with her. Just being the film perspective to her true crime perspective. Well, I said it earlier, Jacob. I'm not one to talk about the true crime stuff, but for the film stuff, based on what they do with Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and even Sons of the Lambs alone, I think they've pissed off so many different peoples with this. I don't know, like who is pleased with this?
There's so much more. Like, don't you understand? He's also responsible for Nightcrawler, for, let's Mind Hunters. He was standing so menacingly. I'm sorry, that's definitely Michael Myers there. He's responsible for every horror movie ever.
Yeah, I don't know. Like when Dahmer came out, I was uncomfortable with how much people enjoyed it. But that was only because maybe this is a person that shouldn't be celebrated like that. And if anything, like this show, if anything, they're like, yeah, these serial killers, they are responsible for every cool thing in fiction, and it's like, what?
And they really make sure that he is a serial killer, where, some other people don't classify him as it because he's only been convicted of, I think, 2 official murders.
Yeah,
So, yeah. But they made sure to not only throw all of those horror movies and inspirations and all those directors, they didn't really have any ideas. They borrowed it directly. Like, not even borrowed, they stole from Ed Gein. But not only them, but, man, we've also gotta, like, knock Yes down a peg or 2. The owner of A Lonely Heart. Like, my god, why? Why? So many people have, done so many things with that song. You don't need Ed Gein
Dude,
doing a dance number to
the
it.
thing I said to my wife was, "Oh, yeah, I'm sure at the mental facility they were playing fucking MTV for Ed Gein to die to." Sure, sure.
Ah, I mean, that's weird to think that Ed Gein could have possibly listened to Yes, but, I would hope that he was rocking some Roundabout, not really owner of A Lonely Heart, but
"Oh, I'd like to watch
fair enough.
Headbangers Ball now, please, thank you." Fucking
But,
bullshit.
man, that surreal, trippy dance number, I don't know.
Dude.
I feel like I'd already face palmed harder than I could, and then it was just going on, and they shot it like just man, it could not have been more over the top music video. Just
Yeah.
I don't know, and it would have been ahead of the time too, because I think he died in '84. So if this was towards the end of it, like, they were not using those techniques back then. Just I don't know, they could have made it look like an '80s video. They could have
See,
really gone that route, but,
I didn't know up until watching this that I was alive at the same time he was. I didn't know that. Like, I for some reason, I don't know what I thought, but I thought, like, he died in the '50s, but, um, the one thing that was actually true, it kinda creeped me out a little bit. Um,
well, yeah, and that's the other weird part is, who really kinda knows a lot of that story from when he was institutionalized and what exactly was going on there. That could have been really interesting. That could have had a really positive or
yes.
a powerful message.
Yes, if they
But,
had gone
yeah.
further in explaining how he was technically not sane. He wasn't sane to be considered guilty. Like, I granted they do discuss it in the show, but I would have loved to have experienced for this here, I'll join you true crime people and say, could we have the perspective of, what that was like? How did the victims' families feel about Ed Gein being, you know, mentally unfit for trial? Like, that's can you imagine that happening now?
Yeah. I was kinda hoping they would go a little bit further with that
Right.
deputy. Just man, I want to know what happened to him. Just apparently he sold off the car and who knows? But, like, we didn't go into the trial at all. We saw a little bit when he's institutionalized, and that's about it. I feel like we know more about his first, nurse, what was it, Salty or something like that, than we really
Oh,
got with
yeah.
that deputy.
Yeah, like, they I don't know. I I didn't I didn't feel this show make me I feel this show didn't want me to have negative thoughts about Ed Gein. Like, it felt like they were making a lot of excuses for what it is he was doing.
So many, and man, are they throwing Adeline under the bus every single chance, including up until the last episode where
Yeah, and again, I'm sorry, um, the only time you're bringing up LGBTQ issues is you're making an implication that only psychos fuck with that shit, and I didn't appreciate that. Like, you could have had someone who cross dresses and, just delivers milk in the neighborhood. Like, at least give me I don't know. It of all the things to not commit to, the one thing they did commit to was, interesting sexual taste. I just
yeah. And the whole, somehow making more of a human of him and making him more sympathetic in a weird way where he's not really responsible for it, somebody else caused all of this.
yeah.
It's weird choices.
Louise says blaming mental health for these crimes always maddens me. Yeah, I wouldn't. They kind of teased it in the beginning, where if you're going to do an unreliable narrative thing, I wouldn't mind experiencing, you know, from the victim's perspective, from what really happened, and from Ed Gein in his like, I don't mentally know what I'm doing, and then let us, the audience, kind of. come to the conclusion that we think, and shit, at least that would fill out the eight episodes a bit more, where you have like maybe 2 episodes with one perspective, 2 episodes with another, and 2 episodes with the other, and then the last episode kind of make it hazy. But
I completely agree, and I thought that's kind of where they were going with the Adeline thing. Like, I was convinced that they were going to kind of wrap this all up, and it was a twist all along. But I don't believe that's what they ended up going with. That wasn't the interpretation I got or my wife got from it.
right, I, I don't know. Guys, thank you in advance for clicking like. But what were your thoughts with this? Let me know. What were your expectations? Um, because I haven't heard anyone that's enjoyed it. I don't
We
know
didn't
what I
talk
was
about
expecting.
the homage to cinema, though. That amazing scene in the graveyard at the end.
Oh
Just
my goodness.
It was I thought I had facepalmed as hard as I could with the dance number, but man, it was just like one after another, where I thought again they were doing a Michael Myers thing, like just standing still, but it turns out no, they're not. Instead, we're gonna just one by one go through, and
But
man, I absolutely hated that
but
scene so
the
much.
thing leading up to that, you show the people who fuck with his headstone. Like the I don't know when it's supposed to take place, when kids are like drinking and fucking around at the cemetery, and then
I
they
think it's the year 2000. So they make it very unclear, but I believe his headstone was removed. People damaged it, stole it in the year 2000, and since then it's now an unmarked hidden grave.
so what was the reason to show us that, and then have like all of the horror greats kind of.
To show how much he inspired everything, I have no idea. Just one more chance to rip off actually good material and then shove it into your show.
Yeah, listen, I can't speak to the true crime shit, but like the crimes against film, and I don't know, just what a legacy he is. No, 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 no. I'm not even offended for the sake this shit really happened, because I know for a fact this shit didn't really happen. So
Wrapped up to one final thing. Augusta and Ed on the porch, sitting in their own,
dancing.
I guess in heaven, maybe. But having one final conversation where Augusta makes it clear that only a mother could ever love you. So, full circle. Yeah, man, I was so disappointed by the end of this. I thought there's no way it could get worse, and then it kept getting worse. But yeah, the pinnacle for me is that final episode. If you can make it through that without laughing, I don't know. You are so much stronger than me.
Yeah,
Just
I think, first of all, I said this to you before we went live. The last 2 episodes could have been 20 minutes. You didn't like for the I was like, we're not really learning anything here. We're just kind of spinning tires here. He's dying, and now he's helping find Ted Bundy. That's interesting. Um, you could have they did the Return of the King thing and really tried to stretch the ending where it's just unnecessary. There's at least 2 or 3 times over the course of those last 4 episodes where it's like, oh, fuck off. Just like audibly fuck off. And I don't know why I kept. Oh, I know why I kept watching for today, but uh, not good, not good at all.
um, WZ asks, do you guys think that Charlie Hunnam knows the real story or only this dramatization? I think he only knows this. At least that's what he said in one of the interviews where he mentioned where his accent for the character came from, his voice that he chose, and he said he didn't do much research. He actually didn't even know that he was in a meeting to get this role. He thought it was a meeting to talk about possibly, and apparently they just loved his interpretation on it.
Yeah,
So
I would agree with that.
yeah. But man, the other part that we didn't touch on, just that is not the physique that you get by eating pork and beans. It doesn't make any sense. Everything about this is fictionalized. But why did they make the hot version of everybody? Like, I'm not kidding. Like, every single person, they made like the Hollywood version of it. Even the people that you think, yeah, they're a little bit homely. Look at the real people that they are based off
Yeah.
of, and man, they Hollywooded this up.
Yeah, there's a stretch there where, like, he after his mother dies, he's, like, just throwing his used tins in the sink and whatever, like, he's just, like, living the bachelor life, for lack of a better definition, and I was like, "Hmm, as someone who suffers from agoraphobia, are they gonna, like, really make him go fucking crazy here?" Like, if you watch The Aviator, they show, you know, just mentally unwell people and how they handle certain things. Um, but I guess you'd need a better storyteller to do that here. Um, it just it like again, it brings up the idea like, oh, he's living a disheveled life now that he doesn't have to answer to his mother, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it again is there to throw Adeline under the bus that
Oh,
she knew about this, she documented it. Uh, but yeah, you're right. Like I wish thematically some of this all connected, but
yeah.
maybe I'm missing something.
I mean,
I don't think I'll be watching it again to find out.
right. I just it's too many just idea suggestions, like, "What about this? What about this?" If you could have taken just one narrative purpose and said, "Hey, this is what we're going with this. Here's what we're saying." Or again, the Rashomon thing, the, uh, unreliable narrator, um, I who is the fucking narrator here? Because it's not Ed Gein. Um, fucking hell, like, I I don't know, I guess I've never really said this, but, like, the Dahmer thing I thought was intriguing. I found it
Hmm.
fascinating, but this is just garbage.
That was kinda the review that I got on the Menendez one, which
Mm.
sucks because I know a little bit more about that particular one. So I don't know. I guess I had high hopes, but I kinda heard what they did. I didn't choose to watch that one, but, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could take another one of these. I definitely need a break, but
Not 8
out of
episodes
curiosity
of
for
it.
you, Louise has a question or, really a suggestion. Guys, just do a watch along. So the question is, how much what's your like goal to, get a watch along for this entire series? How many
The
likes would you
all 8 again?
Uh-huh, the
Oh,
entire series.
fucking hell.
Guess I can make a super cut for you.
Whew. Well, get started with those likes. Um, if you're watching this in the future, let us know down below, interest in the watch along, and with comments and enough interest, I'll entertain the idea, but holy fuck. Um, yeah, I'd rather perform in Saudi Arabia right now than
I hear it's paying well.
WZ, excellent question. Is there a good show in here if this gets edited down to say 2 hours? Great question.
I think yes. I think there's some really interesting and fascinating things, but, man, I think it's mainly bloated for the 8 hours, but maybe that's just me. I think the creators of this might focus on the wrong things if they edited it down to 2 hours, but I think
Right.
everything that we got here, there is a solid 2-hour story in there.
And yeah, Jacob, you were joking before, but I guess I do. I do need to apologize to Medusini because if you're watching this for the true crime aspect, it's a fucking train wreck. Um, again, I'd be intrigued to the supporters that wanted that reaction. You're in her community. Uh, I'm interested in having a discussion on the two aspects, whether it be the film community and the true crime community. But I I don't know y- wh- how do you watch this series and respect any of it as things that actually happen because it goes so far away from. I mean, I guess there's people in this series that existed, but I don't think any of this shit is their actions, right? I
So I forgot that I was muted. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I don't know. But there's a compelling story in here. There's a reason why it inspired so much in popular culture. I
I
just
see,
man, if you're gonna go this fictional with it, just make your own version. Like, I don't know.
I'm not convinced that there is something if this is what we have to go on, 8 hours of this, that they're just fucking throwing shit at the wall, I don't think his story needs to be told. Uh, I mean,
Would
I
would you have felt sympathy for him had you not seen this and you see that, like, really it's not because of him, it's that horrible Adeline if she
you
just hadn't been a bad influence on him,
you
you
know
know?
what? You you could do an 8-episode series about Elliot Rodger and make me sympathetic for
Ooh.
him, and I think I would rather that than this. At least there's more than 2 victims, uh, and there's something of a story that I know something about, and you know how much I am not a fan of real life shit? Um, I I don't think there's a story here, especially not for, the modern audience, like, I don't know, you could do school shooters at this point and make it, more interesting.
I think there is something interesting. Like, I think if you kinda show what could have possibly caused this, I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to dive into it one way or
You're
another.
gonna have to
If you
commit,
show the
though.
House of Horrors,
You've gotta
and then if
commit
you
to
show kinda his ultimate result, like what we his last few years in institutionalization.
yeah.
I think there's a story there that's compelling, but yeah, I think what we got is not compelling at all.
Yeah, I mean,
The only reason why I watched is because of what we're supposed to do later, which is kinda talk about it like this, but I'm sure it won't go into as much depth as this did.
yeah, so I'm sure anyone who goes to those lengths, it's fascinating. Like, for someone to do the things and treat, human remains the way that this person did. It's certainly something that, if only to learn how to prevent it moving forward, it would be an interesting um, study. Uh, but I think you need to commit to what your narrative is going to be. Louise says,
I completely agree.
should Murphy be held accountable for using real people in such a diabolical way?
I would think yes, but I'm not sure. I really don't know what the rules are. Like Charles was saying, it doesn't say anywhere like this is based on a true story or this is the real life story. But man, they're using real events, real names. I wouldn't be happy with it. I don't know if my ancestors would be cool if they would just let it go, but I don't know. If this were my grandpa or grandma or whatever, I think I'd be like, "What the hell? How would you frame them in that light?"
Well,
I would look into my options.
yeah, I don't know. Like, especially considering that, like, she didn't say much about their exchange. Like, if I were to pass and you'd make a series about someone that I spent, 10 months with, and in this series, 50 years from now, you're going to tell people that I'm like the fucking secret brains behind this crazy operation. That I would hope my someone would speak up on my behalf for the sake of, I I don't know, fiction or no, it's fucking dangerous. It's irresponsible, man.
Yeah, and I think this is gonna be more popular than a lot of the true crime stuff out there. Like, it is number 1 on Netflix right now.
Gross.
Just the fact that people are gonna walk away with this with, the, possible, thought that he also helped catch a serial killer, man, that really puts a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Is this kinda heroizing hero making a hero, idolizing this horrible man who did, such horrible shit. I don't know, to make him sympathetic and then also somewhat glorified, especially that whole final episode, how it plays out. To me, just I didn't think it could get worse until that final episode.
Yeah. Louis says, "I'm just surprised Ryan didn't make Ed gay. Surprises me." It came pretty close to it. Um, again, if there's one thing that I could say that this series actually kind of committed to is sexual proclivities equals psychos, and I don't agree with that.
Mm.
Gray, what would you score this season, and who would you recommend it to? More importantly,
Are we going out of 10 or out of 5 on this? Because it's a huge difference.
oh, um, uh, a dealer's choice, sir. Because
Okay, so if I'm going letterboxed on this, which obviously we must go letterbox on this, so it would be out of 5. Man, I think I go like 1.5. There's some really cool shots that kind of stick with me, but man, and there's some interesting performance and like commitment that went into this, but just the story doesn't really make sense as it is. And then on top of that, with the liberties that they took, it just it it leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. The tones that they were trying to go with, and the really sympathizing and idolizing this man. I don't get it. It's not for me. So I'd go 1.5. What about yourself?
I actually agree with you, like right down to the number. I would go 1.5 out of 5, and like the same things you were talking about. Like I think from a narrative perspective, this doesn't really it doesn't have a perspective. It doesn't have like a through line that it's committing to. And yes, I agree. There's some really interesting cinematography, but with the one shot in particular that I can't remember the discussion that was being had, but like the visual storytelling of their body language, the blocking, I was really fascinated by that, but it ended up being
Mhm.
fucking nothing. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a fucking waste for me.
And that's how all of those kinda homages to other things felt to me as well. Like, they have all the Psycho shots homages, and they all seem to be just a waste.
And they go too
Same thing
far.
with all the chainsaw, yeah, and
Psycho,
then,
they don't
same thing
show
with the
nudity.
yeah, and the Silence of the Lambs too, like,
Mhm.
I it really didn't work for me. Just, mm, so much wasted potential on everything.
I agree. I don't know who I'd recommend this to. If you're a true crime person, uh, I don't know if I would recommend this.
Um, maybe there's something positive you could say. Louise asks, "What did you guys think of the FX in this show?"
Um,
Nothing?
I
Um, if the Specs, costume is prosthetic,
yeah,
man, that's some good prosthesis there. That's some good practical effects. There was some with the Psycho scene, it did get pretty graphic, it did get pretty violent. There's also some chainsaw scenes, Toby Hooper's kind of, intrusive thought, that was kind of interesting. There were
yeah.
some cool practical effects shots and all the, like mannequins or whatever you wanna call them, the prosthesis for, like the lady who worked at the hardware store. It's all good, pretty good practical effects. Same thing when they're going through the House of Horrors. His lampshades, his necklaces,
The
I
nipple
mean, all
belt?
that stuff is good. Yeah. And even his, leather fake nipple one at the end. I think there's a lot of, like, really good set dressing and the props that way, but
Yeah,
it's lipstick on a pig,
yeah.
man. But I think there's a lot of cool effects that were used in this, but,
Yeah, I agree. I don't know who I'm suggesting to take an 8-hour dip into something that really just doesn't they don't land the plane for you. They put you in the air and they suggest the idea of a parachute. They don't even give you a parachute. They're like, What if there's a parachute that got you down?" Um, I wouldn't suggest this. I would say maybe 2 episodes, watch 2 episodes, and however you feel after that.
I totally forgot you had a second part to that question, who would I recommend it to? So my wife really likes true crime. I made her suffer through all this with me, and it made her physically ill, which she has not gotten from a lot of true
Hmm.
crime. So there's that to it. But yeah, I don't know who I would recommend this to, because if you like true crime, you're probably not going to like this. If you like dramatization, I think it goes a little bit too far. If
Right.
you're into biopics, I don't think this is for you. I don't know who this is for, but
Yeah.
it's number one on Netflix, so people want to click on the controversy. But yeah, if you're gonna watch any of this and you're probably not gonna finish it, at least watch that last episode to know how bad this gets, because
Oh.
that last episode is just the bee's knees as far as
Mm.
badness.
Yeah, and again, if you're watching in the future, it depends on how serious the comments are. Maybe we'll do a watch along. I don't know. Let us know how much
I
interest you have in that, and maybe we'll entertain the idea. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna commit you to a certain amount of likes that, you would do that, but,
Do not open
never
your
mind,
mouth,
I won't be
sir.
as
All right, Gray, what do you got coming up on the horizon?
I swear there will be content on my dead channel in the near future. This is the fall of gray, just, after the summer of gray and just before the winter of gray. There's gonna be content, I swear, but if you just can't get enough of me, go on over to YouTube at that darn kidda tonight, Thursday night, and you can see me, Charles, and an international panel get together and disagree about everything, but usually leave somewhat amicably. Tonight we are furthering the discussion on this monster, the Ed Gein story. But we might touch on a couple more incidents or things in the news. So if
Yeah,
that sounds good to you, come on over YouTube at that darn kiddo.
yeah. I think Kidda is a true crime kid too, right? So this might be an
I
interesting.
think she definitely is. I would be interested. I haven't talked to her at all since she suggested we all watch this. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they had similar experiences, but I know both you and I seem to be like pulling our hair out. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good times.
We could have been talking about Dexter Resurrection. That's all I'm gonna say. We could have been talking about that, but we are not. All right. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for the super chats. If you'd like to, and you don't have access to things like certain Netflix shows or movies, you might want to look into getting a NordVPN membership, which I have a pinned link in the chat, which is a special discount associated strictly with my account. Where if you sign up there, you get a discount. I get credit for it. I say thank you in advance, and you get to watch things that maybe you wouldn't be able to watch in your home country, or maybe you just want to be like me and make yourself seem like you're in a different country for security reasons or what have you. There's a link in the chat. Go nordvpn.net, and a bunch of squiggly letters and stuff. Thank you in advance for clicking that. Just make sure you put my name in if there's a recommendation request, but the link should take you there. Once again, I appreciate you clicking like and subscribe. We'll be doing something like minded in the future. Until next time, Gray, say goodbye.
Goodbye. I was muted.